Let's speak to our correspondent, Noga Tornapolsky, to find out more. Hello to you. Noga, what do you think is going to come out of these ceasefire talks, and what are the sticking points?
Good to see you. Well, there are a number of sticking points, but in answer to your direct question, what I think will come of this momentum, of this particular juncture we're at today with Prime Minister Netanyahu flying to Washington in just a few hours, is whatever the American president decides is going to be. Like we saw in the Iran war, what he decided ended up being what the two sides adopted, and I suspect it's going to be similar now. Hamas issued a murky statement saying that it was responding positively to the American proposal, but that it had some amendments it wanted to make. Our understanding of these amendments is that they're significant, that they involve how aid will be brought into Gaza and a demand that Hamas be in charge of the distribution of aid in Gaza. That would really cement power for Hamas in this territory. Similarly, Hamas made demands about where the Israeli troops will redeploy to, and also they asked for guarantees about a non-return to fighting at the end of the initial 60-day period. None of this is acceptable to Israel, and that is what the Prime Minister said, again, without going into detail. So we're talking about an agreement we haven't seen, amendments we haven't seen, and an Israeli statement that on the one hand said, we don't accept any of this, and on the other said, we will send a team to negotiate. That is also happening today. But it's important to remember that the American proposal is something that the Americans expected both sides to just say yes to. In fact, President Trump on Thursday said he expected a yes from Hamas within 24 hours. So the fact that both sides are looking at this and saying, well, we're willing to talk, is not what the U.S. wanted. And I think we should keep a very close eye on what we see when Benjamin Netanyahu visits Washington this week, whether pressure is put on him to accept or to budge somewhat, or whether the Americans decide that they're going to focus their energy again on the Ukraine-Russia situation, for example.
Right. Noga, what can you tell us about protests in Israel?
So this is another really interesting development. Prime Minister Netanyahu does not have the support of his own people for this deal, and I want to specify why. Israelis want an end to the war. The latest polls show that 75+% of Israelis want an end to the war in exchange for all their hostages back. 62% across the board say they want an end to the war, full stop. No conditions in the latest Israel Democracy Institute survey. And so what you saw yesterday were tens of thousands of Israelis taking to the street and screaming, I'm now quoting the brother of one of the hostages, why the hell are we going for a partial deal? What Israelis want is a deal that would see all the hostages come home at once and a declared end to the war. And those are two things that the Prime Minister is not aiming for, because he believes he would lose the support of his cabinet, his very extremist right-wing cabinet that just wants war to continue until an undefined crushing of Hamas. That's what they want. And so he is unwilling to even demand an end to the war or to demand the release of all the hostages. And this is a growing clash in very, very high tones now between the Israeli government and the Israeli people. And also we're beginning to hear between the Israeli army that feels that the government is making impossible demands of it and that the fighting part of this war in Gaza is over.
All right, Noga, thank you very much. Noga Tornapolsky reporting from Jerusalem.
Thanks, Will.